I learned about the workshop the year that it was first announced to the world outside of Humboldt. That was 1959. I heard about it from my friend and classmate Phil Cates, who was an oboist, who heard about it from Charlie Fulkerson in Monterey that spring. I first came up here in 1964. In the years from 59 to 64, we had 3 small children who were too young to leave. My wife wanted to come too. And so we came in 1964. The staff members were Floyd Glendy was the director, Phil Cates, and Ruth Zafir, a cellist from Berkeley, were the coaches, and Marianne Pinches was the librarian. That was the staff. There were about 80 participants that year. I became a staff member in 1966. I attended in 1964 and 65. In 66, Charles Fulkerson bowed out as a workshop staff member, and I replaced him. I was appointed to the music faculty in 1967, and I became the director in 1977. I'd been associate director from 1970 onward. Well, there were several. One of the things we did was to take over completely the housing operation. Housing is located over in the canyon, and our participants were kind of housed all over the place. In the early years, they were all in the same dorm. They liked that very much. So we agreed with the housing office that we'd take over the housing assignments. They'd assign the dorm, and we would fill it. We're the only workshop that manages the housing operation. Usually people deal with the housing office. We changed the registration process from a 4-hour thing to 1 hour, and we saved them quite a lot of money in the process by cashiering the housing charges separately, so we didn't pay overhead on that. We found we had to establish some regular support positions, whereas we'd been getting by with student assistants on a temporary yearly basis. We established a library and manager position and a program manager dealing with facilities and rooms and that kind of thing, so the staff didn't have to do that and could concentrate on interaction with the participants. We moved the finances from the Office of Extended Education to the HSU Foundation, which was quite a bit simpler, and again saved the participants some money. Well, there have been 3. The first 2 were facilities at different points. We need about 20 rooms for 3 weeks. And in 1988, a large system-wide program, California State University System Summer Arts Program, came here, and it stayed for 8 years. They needed the very same facilities we did in a good part of their time. They created quite a lot of competition for room spaces. So there was a lot of early discussion and negotiation. We got a lot of help from the housing office and from extended education on that, and we really needed it. The second facilities problem was when CSU mandated a larger summer session here. That was 1999. That also created quite a competition for room spaces. The college and the department were quite a lot of help in negotiating for the room spaces again. We were able to usually find 18 to 20 rooms that we could use in the middle of the campus. As the summer session seems to be waning, that competition is diminishing, it looks to me like. And the third problem is adjusting to an off-campus director. Alan Geyer, who is the present director, lives in Altadena. He knows the campus well. He was a staff member for a long time. He has many friends here, but he lives a long ways away. So we've accommodated that by appointing an associate director who lives locally in Redway, Terry Bond, and she's doing some of the work on his behalf during the school year. And email is quite a lot of help when you're talking with somebody who's familiar with the situation. So that's the third major problem of the last 2 decades, is to find ways to operate with an off-campus director. The workshop has an advisory board that was started in 1965 by Floyd Glendy, the first director. The advisory board makes suggestions based on their experience as participants. There are about 15 members. And they had suggested that we start a 3rd week because the other workshops we had started at Ashland at Southern Oregon College and at Chico State were filled, and we still had long waiting lists that I was reporting to them every year, and they were concerned about the length of the waiting lists. So I was reluctant, but we started a third week, which almost instantly, relatively instantly, had 85 participants. It was very successful. In order to do it, since 2 weeks is tiring and 3 weeks can be pretty grueling, what we had to do is to add to the staff. We hired more coaches and more support staff so that as the nonstop weeks went on, people didn't grow quite so fatigued. It was an accommodation to the 3 weeks to increase the size of the staff. So that's why the third week was added. It was to work the waiting lists back down and make more opportunity for musicians to participate at Humboldt.
I am not at all aware of any model from somewhere else. I think this might have been the first kind of program like this. What I am aware of is how Floyd and my father, my mother, and Esther Thompson and Marianne Pinches and others used to play quartets and quintets and trios many nights throughout the year in each other's homes. And eventually people used to come by, drop in, neighbors and friends and relatives would come and listen. Because in those early days there weren't a lot of concerts and there wasn't a concert venue. So people just showed up and casually listened, and I think it just went from there. That was probably the first seed. Well, I was probably not the best kid for my parents. They were both very talented and musical, and I loved music and had a lot of natural instinct for music, but I didn't practice. So I would say I started playing chamber music right with my violin teacher, because since I wouldn't practice, I would always talk her into playing with me. So I started playing duets right with my very first lessons. And then from there I started playing more seriously in elementary school, in a quartet, and through high school and college. Well, my father played mainly the piano and my mother the cello, but my mother also played piano and other string instruments. Well, actually both of them, since they were music majors in college, played all instruments to one degree or another. My father was also a flutist and a conductor, but his favorite instrument was viola. He played viola the latter years of his life.